Okay, it's 8:31 p.m. Central Standard Time, and welcome to week three. Week three. This is the halfway point that we're coming to, and it seems like you just started. Well, you did, and then in a couple more weeks, you'll be finished. In fact, the day after the election, which is the 3rd, so the 4th of November, we will be in our heading in our last week. And in fact, that'll be our last lecture that takes place on that particular day. So I want to say to you guys a couple of things that is very, very, very important. Number one, at the beginning of this course, I said rubrics. I said pay attention to the far right column. I've said it so many times. And I can tell you with all sincerity that I graded week 1 assignments. I haven't started week 2 because you just completed those as of Sunday. But week 1 assignments, most of you did pretty well. But there is one concern that I have that a few students still did not get. And that is, okay, let me put this in here. Oh, I thought I was typing it. Okay. Give me a minute here. Okay, I have to put that in there. Activate audio. Sorry, that's supposed to be 2 words, but I typed it so fast that I ran it together. You cannot hear the lecture unless you activate audio by going up here and getting your audio going. So I see 3 of you and 2 of you have it and 1 does not. So you can't even hear what I'm saying unless you can read lips. But anyway, I want to go back and say what I started to say is that for the most part, you guys did well with submitting your assignments in Word form. A few of you submitted it PDF, but I made it quite abundantly clear during our first week open house, which is why, see, everybody says the open house is long. But the reason why it's so long is because I spend meticulous efforts to try to get you started off on the right foot. And then, of course, my story at the end is there to motivate. Most students appreciate that and like that because of the fact that it gives them some connection with their professor. And I am a professor who is seriously connected to my students. As students have found out that text me or call me, I respond just like that. But if you send your assignments in PDF, I'm going to give you a 0, and you'll get a 0 until you correct it. The other thing I want to say is remind students that if you see a 0, and the first time you probably in most cases will see the 0 is the Monday after the assignment is due. So if you see that 0 in week 2's assignments now, which were due Sunday, it's because you didn't turn it in. That does not mean that that's going to be your actual grade. And if it will be your actual grade only if, okay, good, you got it. All right. So only if you don't turn the assignment in. The 0 is more like a placeholder to let you know. And then the other question that I keep getting over and over is this. I'm sorry I didn't hand in my assignment on Sunday. It is now Tuesday. I got someone today. Can I still turn in my assignments from week 2? Well, if you remember from week 1, the late assignment policy gives you up to 7 days. I said, but that doesn't help you. And also, do not tell me on Tuesday after your assignment is in that you had an emergency on over the weekend that prevented you from getting your assignment done. I said from the very beginning, just text me a note. Say I have an emergency. You don't have to get into specifics, and let me know, or let me know as soon as possible, even if you let me know early Monday. But don't tell me Tuesday I had a weekend emergency, because you had all day Monday to let me know about it. So and I really respect extenuating circumstances a great deal, but you got to be held accountable. You've got to. And if I just let people go, I'll be doing you a disservice, and we don't want to do that. So anyway, I had to say that because I'm responding to some of the things that I get questions asked of me each time. So and then if you have a technical issue, reach out to PA. And a student asked me what was PSC. I said, well, Personal Support Center. And I said, reach out to them. That was on a Sunday. They said, I'll reach out to them tomorrow. I said, no, you can reach out to them 24/7. And they will at least put a ticket in and guide you. So that's why I spend the enormous amount of time during week 1. And I tell students, sometimes you have to go back and listen to that all over. You don't have to listen to the story all over about me, but at least listen to that. And then somebody asked me, why do you put the key phrase after the story in week 1? And the reason why I do that is because I want you to listen to the story, not because of any other reason, but I have had probably 95% of the students that like to hear about what I share because it demonstrates why I have empathy. Every once in a while, a student comes back and says that they didn't take a class to hear about my religion. And I said, oh, that whole story wasn't about religion. But it is what it is. You can't, if you can please everybody on the face of the earth, congratulations. God himself hasn't been able to do that. So, but anyway, I wanted to say that tonight because we're going to the halfway point of it. Let's all cross the finish line. Let's not just barely make it. So, all right. So now let's share my screen. All right. Let's go down here. And you see that we have, this is week 3. We've got week 4 and week 5 lectures. You know, those are there. So, and the recordings under here, if you click on the links, it'll actually take you to the recording itself, as will this one be here as well. Now let's go take a look at well, before we do that, one of the differences that I'm still getting used to is having tabs. Like resources used to be up at the top of the page. It's now down here. Calendar used to be up there. I haven't seen where resources is. I probably could tell. Let's see if I can. I'm gonna see if this is what you guys see. And so now I'm looking at what you guys see. This is what I just switched the screen. It doesn't look that much different, but there are things that you won't see. Um, let's see, on the left side, I'm trying to see where the calendar is. Okay, I see your resources, and I think your calendar is on the side at the beginning. Um, your calendar is not at the top anymore. Wait, okay, if you guys are going to look at your calendar and you click on it, could somebody tell me, either open your mic or either type in the chat box how you see your calendar? How do you find your calendar? Because I have a thing called Course Tools, but you don't have that. Is it under Resources? Let's see. Again, see, I can't see that because of the fact that this is a student view. So I can't see that. So let's get that out of there. So I don't know, how do you see, can anybody tell me how you see your calendars? Click the X and then you see your calendar. Oh, this X here? Okay, so what that does is it takes you out of the course. Okay, there it is along the side. So then if you click this, then you see your calendar. However, it doesn't tell you when the assignments are and all of that on there, on this calendar. Unless, I guess, unless you go into the class itself. Maybe see if you see. Okay, there we go. Sorry, my name is known as, I know that. So I guess that's how you see it. Is that, am I right? Okay. See, this is different. So I'm getting used to this, but it tells you the same thing that I had. Okay, so now let's go back. Thanks for that info. Okay, so now I'm going back. I'm going to exit this and get back to, okay, this little thing will disappear. Okay, now, so now we're back in the class and my view. But the way that and notice that this tab here that says Course Tools and Grade Center, you don't have any of this because it's course management for me. So when I get ready to look at the calendar, this is how I do it. I click Course Tools, and it tells me a number of things that I can use that you can't use. But there's Course Calendar, and it takes me back to the calendar the way that it looked before. And it's the same thing, except you see all of this together. All right. So anyway, back to the, so I'm getting used to this, but that Resources tab is no longer at the top now. It's the same information, you just moved it into the side. All righty. We all learning together because this is new stuff, and we're going to even learn even more before this is all over. So now let's look at your assignments for this week. Reading assignment that I sent you the PowerPoint on, and that is in the announcement that we're going to be looking at in a minute. Your initial post that were due yesterday, state prison programming. Then tonight, your live lecture. Your reply post due Saturday. And then on Sunday, tells you your written assignment sentencing fact sheet, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And your quiz, which you already know, you get 3 bites out of that, which, by the way, again, if you submit your quiz on Monday, then I'm going to ignore that grade. So the first time you take it is Monday, you're going to get a 0. If you're taking it, 2 times before that or 1 time before that, and then you take one Monday, your final grade will be the one that was submitted on time, and not the third one, which would be after time. Okay, so that's how that works. And then your live classroom word or phrase that we have here. But notice what I'm saying to you. The last lecture for this month is next week. Then we go into, as I was telling you earlier, let me move this up a little bit. Come on, I want to move that out the way. Here we go. The last lecture will be the 4th. That's the last absolute lecture, and that is week 5. And then the course ends the 10th, a week after the election. Okay, that is the absolute last day. It's not the 11th, it's not the 14th, and it's not the 15th. So students come to me and sometimes say, I thought that the course, I said, thought nothing. I talk about this during every week and make it clear. And, so there's no reason for a student. And then if it comes in at 12 o'clock, 1 second after 11:59, it's not going to be graded. That is a school policy. I will not stretch that or change that. There are ways to do things, but you have to follow the school policy and rules. All right. So now that's clear on when the course actually ends. Okay, so let me close this, my course tools. See, all of this course management stuff is stuff that I have, but you don't see it when I switch it to student view. So now let's go back to the course home page. And so why are you talking about this, Professor? Reason is because it was brought to my attention that out of all of this of my welcome announcement, it was said that click the resources tab to find valuable information. The resources tab is still there. It's just not at the top. So anyway, so the resources tab is now down at the on the left side, and you can access that as well. Okay, so that's why I was doing that. Okay, let's look at our announcement for today, for this week. Roles of prisons, punishment, and programming. Chapters 4 and 14 of your textbook. And then deal with the activities, institutional programming, changing philosophies, core rehabilitative programs, determinate and indeterminate sentencing activity, and then finally the all-important vocabulary review, which I stress to you always prepares you for the quiz. Then your discussion assignment, state prison programming, initial post, as I said previously, was due last night, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard, and then the reply post is due Saturday. Finally, you complete the written assignment, sentencing fact sheet, and then your quiz. And then, as I said earlier, let's start strong and finish strong. And then you know about my motto, adversity is the springboard to success. All right. One time someone asked me, why do you talk a lot about stuff that we can just go ahead and read? because it's not read. That's why I do it. And I've been teaching long enough, since 2011, to recognize and learn along. I've become a better professor over each year. I get better. So you're getting the advantage of some things that I did not do before. All right, like I would just throw it out here and says, you either read it or else. And I don't do that anymore. Because I appreciate the pressures and schedules that many of you face. So let's take a look at the module. We start with the assignments. Now, this is a discussion assignment. So you're going to follow the instructions here. Talk about the type of prisons, your thoughts as to which programs are effective and why, and your recommendations. That's your initial post. Then your reply post, respond to a student of another state or a program different than yours. So keep in mind that this is all about states prison programming. So you could either use the state that you're in or the state that you came from or live, one or the other, because it doesn't have to be where you're physically having class, because some people have classes in one state and live actually in another. Okay, so that's your discussion assignment, and you know what my rule is on the times when those are due. So now let's take a look at where you can be made whole or not. I haven't, like I said, when I reach grade week 2, you're going to see it. So the fact sheet. So automatically, soon as students see that, they get thrown off. So all it is, this is a brochure, and it helps you to set up brochure. Now, before I get into the meat of it, notice what it says down here. And it says it every week. It says, save your assignments as a Word document. Word document. And that's why I said what I said about PDF, because it is not possible for me to grade your assignment with a PDF because I can't run it through Grammarly and check it out as I shared with you I do. So with this sensing fact sheet, think about what it's asking you to do. So you're going to talk about determinate and indeterminate sentencing. And you're supposedly looking at a referendum or something that's on a ballot to be voted on by the people as to which they prefer, determinate or indeterminate sentencing. Then you've been asked to create a fact sheet. In other words, to educate the voters why one is better than the other. So on a one-page fact sheet, include, look at what it says now. Pay attention carefully, because when we get to the rubric, it's going to be right there too. Defines each type of sentencing. So you got to define determinate and indeterminate sentencing. Make it as detailed as you can. Include some elements of determinate and some elements of indeterminate. The more, the merrier. 2, explain at least 2 pros and 2 cons. 2 things that are good, 2 things that are bad for each type of sentencing. Here's where people mess up. Provide supporting evidence from credible sources. We've already talked about credible sources enough in this course, but if you do not provide them, good people, you'll get a low grade. The A students and the B students do this. The C students and the D students don't do it. And the F students definitely don't do it. Well, the F students don't do the assignments. Provide stated ideas with professional language using proper grammar and spelling. Very, very, very important. Okay. And then this shows you how to prepare one as well. And then you submit it. Now, let's go to the rubric. Now remember this. So let's go to the rubric. The due date is this Sunday for 60 possible points. That's what we call 100. And which column did I tell you to focus on? Type that in the chat box. The last one, which is called, what does it start with? What's the word? Yes, yes. Don't even act like other sides are there. Matter of fact, like I said again, I wish I could take it off, but they said no, because you have to give people a choice if they want to get lower grades or higher grades. But this explains to you why some people say, well, you didn't give me enough information to tell me what I did wrong. I do. I make a little brief comment, but the rubric speaks for itself. So with the sentencing types, how many sentencing types are there? Yes. And they're called determinate and indeterminate. So it is important for you to get 20 points. Describe those types with thorough details on the elements from each type and with credible sources. That means you have to do some research, and I need to see some citations in the paper and references at the end. That is the difference in, notice over here, how you get this one, 9-point difference. Incomplete, confusing, or missing details on the specific elements of each type from credible sources. In other words, you don't have any. Here you have maybe a minimal amount. Here you have accurate description from each type. But what your goal is, and that 3-point difference. So which one would you rather have? This is a rhetorical question. It's 20. It's 20. So that's what you want to get, okay? So for 20 points out of the possible 60 points, remember, the pros and cons, 35%. Again, there's that credible sources again. You cannot get over here. Look at the difference. 15 points, good people. 15 points. So if you have 60 points, that 15 points, my math in my head tells me that that's 1/4 of it. That's 1/4 of it, or 25% of it, for the for the grade that you want to get of the perfect score. So again, forget this. You gotta stay in the right, stay in the right, stay in the right. And then of course, then the last thing is your spelling and grammar, and that goes without saying, and typos and things. Make sure you have a cover sheet and your reference page. Any questions about the sentencing fact sheet? Nobody typed anything, so I presume that the answer is no. Okay, because I pause here so I can ask if you have any. But when I don't hear any questions, I presume everybody's all good. All right. Please, if you have a question, ask it. Don't be embarrassed about the question. There's no dumb questions. So one of the templates is small business. Okay, let me get that again because I don't quite get that. One of the templates is small business. Can we use that? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, in Word? No, 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 no. You write it the way that a brochure looks. You know how a brochure looks? Um, if you put something in brochure form, the answer is you can do it in bullet points, but you do write it in sentences. So because it's a brochure, it's a brochure. When you look at hey, you everybody, all you all, come on. Have you got stuff in the mail recently or passed or stuck to your door about the election and different issues that are coming up? And there are brochures, there are flyers. That's what you're preparing. All right. Everybody got it now? So it's not it is not a regular paper. That's why they wanted you to, they start out from the very beginning to say, because let me tell you something. If you get something in the mail that's about the referendum, one of the things that you'll notice is that you'll have maybe on one side, determinate, one side, and I'm giving you a clue right now, indeterminate. And you're going down and you're covering each of these particular points with sources of support. You see there? Got it? So that because people don't read a lot of stuff, and the more stuff, you don't want a busy thing either. So, all right. So everybody got it now. All right. I hope people don't think I'm fussing whenever I do it this way. I do it this way because I'm trying to make sure that you maximize the requirements of the assignment. So that was a very good question because I don't know what that other thing is about, but I think at the end everybody got where what you have to do with that. So, all right, I know at least 3 students. Yeah, that's true. That's exactly why you have me. Ask me, I will tell you. And you know that you could go back. I'll go back and play my tape. Did I say this? Did I say that? Oh yeah, I said it. I said it. Okay. Now, the other point that I want to bring to your attention is whatever you do, just remember, and I said it earlier, but I'll say it again, it's worth repeating, cover page as well. Okay. Do it right. Remember, we are now in APA 7. All right. So that's all good. All right. So now let's get out of that. All right. Then your quiz, as you already are familiar with how that works. 3 bites out of the apple. Remember, you got to have the last one you want to count. You could do only 1 and be done with it. You could do only 2. Now, if you get them all right the first time, are you going to do it the second time? You can, but why? What would you accomplish? Your grade won't go up. And guess what else? It won't go down either. So that means then that you've got that, or you're a pretty good guesser, but whatever the matter, you got it. You know, as I have had a number of people to do attempt number 1, attempt number 2 for some assignments, and I give them 100 for attempt number 1. Well, then when I grade attempt number 2, I said, this is a 90. So then they look at it and say, oh man, I messed up, I lost 10 points. No, you didn't. Your highest grade is the one that's going to count anyway. Yeah, but no, I understand. I understand what Ramona said is that you can. Yeah, you can. But you know, I'm one of these kind of people that if I get an A paper, I'm not gonna say, okay, how come I get an A plus? Well, the system doesn't allow A pluses, but but the numbers when they roll around at the end could. But we just give you numeric grades at the end, of course. But my point being is that you know, get ready for doing your written assignment. Excuse me, or whatever else that you need to do. So anyway, that's just my suggestion. So some people love taking tests. I say that smiling. You were surprised you got an A. Do you listen to what I say, Christy? Okay, point number one. Point number two, do you follow what it says in the rubric and the module? The touchdown, the kick is good. 3-point shot. Okay. So that's somebody, when you do it the right way, no pun intended. That's my last name, as you know. But when you do it the correct way, then you get it. So I got kids that I got one right now, a 12-year-old. She's at home taking classes and she's goofing off. So I said, "You're not living up to your name, Jill." So, but anyway, I digress. So, but no, okay. So you guys got it. You guys are smart, super smart, and and do you know that? And then I'm gonna move on. That one of the most important things that you're developing in school, and you might have developed it at home starting, but you really focus on school, is following directions. Man, when you learn how to follow directions, you excel. When you try to do things without following the directions, then that's when you lose grade points and all those kind of things. So, and then at the same time, you happen to learn something that sticks with you. But don't be surprised at what you're learning in classes. You can't conceptualize it until you actually get into a practicum situation, such as an internship, externship, where you see hands-on. And then all of a sudden, as you're doing those things, yep, I'm sure we do. As you begin to do those things, and then you go back to say, I remember my professor said such and such a thing, Yeah, yeah, okay, and that kind of stuff. So it's okay. Trust me, when you get to the real world and corrections, it's it's it consists of what you learn, but you're learning the scholastic part. But we try to make sure that we prepare you to be able to take that and understand. It says, oh, now I know why they do that kind of thing. So anyway, then your live classroom lecture there. All right. So we got about roughly 22 minutes. So I'm going to talk about the module. I've almost all the way talked about the module with the assignments because of the way that I talk about them. So we're going to deal with the philosophies of punishment, the pros and cons of determinate and indeterminate sentencing. We've talked about that. Explain the development of institutional programming. So we're going to talk about some of these things, and then we're going to move faster with others. So, if you've been in my class paying attention, that my mode of operating the philosophy in corrections is using what as a means? What is the goal to do what? What's the goal? You got the alternatives right in front of you. What's my favorite one? Yes, rehabilitation. And I say that because it's more, to me, more humane. It changes people. You heard me already talk about the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock on the clock. You all remember that? Me talking about that? 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock? Yeah. So going to 6 o'clock and forget about 12 o'clock. Well, in prisons, formally, it's called penitentiary because there's a place of penance where you're supposed to go and think about it. But we have learned over time that punishment in penitentiary is ancient, and that it doesn't really change the individual's thought process or getting them to understand that the reason you're here is because you did something wrong. Now, you want to learn what you did wrong, yes, but then we want to focus on correcting the problem to fix you up. And so one of the major issues, two of them that we face, involve drugs and mental health. And those are the two top ones. And I said this from the beginning of every course. When you take drugs and crime, you'll hear me talk about that as well, which I'll be teaching next term. Drugs and crime go hand in hand because people commit crimes not because they're bad people, but because they're sick people who need to support their habits. And so you can put them and lock them up all day long, but if you don't get to the root cause of the problem, they're going to be recidivists or repeat offenders. So notice what they said here, that by 1870, American prison reformers realized that isolation did nothing to address the behavior or begin the transition to reformation, that is to bring you back to a person you don't find yourself going back. So now the movement emphasizes education and training, or dealing with your issues that you have. The more we have discovered that it is cheaper to educate than to incarcerate, and that if a society is going to prosper, you want more of your people to be educated. Therefore, the result will be less need for incarceration. Now, that doesn't mean it won't happen. And then training, where you give people fields, job opportunities, vocations. Everybody's not a college-bound student. All of my kids weren't, but most of them were. But the point of the matter is that you give people an opportunity to become barbers, beauticians, or whatever else they decide they want to do, auto mechanics, carpenters, whatever they want to do. You begin to give them the ability. So it says, while America has never returned to the barbaric stage, inhumane punishment, the pendulum continues that the middle ground and the opposite side, with the realization that programming really does matter, giving programs. And so that's one of our top issues that we deal with today. So it's coming from punishment and moving to rehabilitation. And so we get to the point that they look at various assessments to determine, how individuals can get to this. And we look at different methods that will help you to be able to get closer to rehabilitation, such as we might deal with restorative justice. So what is restorative justice? It means just what those two words say: restore you to justice, the stage that focuses on the harm caused by the criminal behavior, to let you know that, hey, you did something wrong. Let's fix this up. And so you pay some money back to the person in the form of restitution. You might participate in community service with an organization, and those kinds of things. So it is something that we are using in this country now, and it helps the victim as well as the offender. And I oftentimes say that the person who commits the crime is a victim also, and the person, of course, who's the target is the victim also. So you got two victims from two different perspectives. And so what we want to do is we want to reconcile these two things, bring them back together. And so look at what we do. See how restorative justice is the triangle that goes across the whole concept of dealing with the community, the offender, and the person who is the target or victim. And so restorative justice, if you pay close attention to it, it plays a role in the whole thing. So it's kind of like the glue that gets things going. Okay. And there's a whole bunch of different programs that you can get. So, all right. So now, what are some rehabilitative programs? And trying to get people to deal with issues. And here are some: dealing in a group, cognitive skill building, behavior and social therapies, education and vocational programs. We've talked about that. Substance abuse programs. We've talked about that. Sex offenders. That's another issue. Again, these are sick people. And then religious programs will help you to navigate things in life. People say to me, "Oh, you're a very religious man." I says, "I'm not a religious man at all. I'm a relational man." But the point of the matter is, it's my own choice and way to deal with it. Some people do it, they call it karma, they call it whatever they want to call it. The point of the matter is, if it results in a benefit to you as an individual, and the end result is that you're making a positive contribution as opposed to a negative withdrawal from society, then it's all good. It's all good. My role is not to convert you in relationship and religions and so forth, but my goal is to get you to understand the role that it could play in your life. So we look at some of the things that they look at to determine factors about how well you might do. Your history of criminology, your attitudes, values, beliefs, who you hang with. Oh my God. If you had children, do you or do you not tell your children, watch who you hang with? That is like parenting 101. Absolutely. Um, the illustration that I like to use, and I did this as a lawyer many times, is I had people to come in, and they would come in. I'm giving a hypothetical. Well, it's actually based on reality, but a mother comes in and brings her son into the office, and her son is in trouble. And his thing is, well, I didn't really do anything, but, I says, well, were you with them? He said, yes, I was with them. So I do my hypothetical, and this should bring it home to you. I asked him the question: if I have a water hose in my hand and I turn the water on, what's going to happen to your mother? What's going to happen to her? I'm not aiming it at her, I'm aiming it at him. But what's going to happen to her? Yep. So how come she's going to get wet? Because she was there. She is in the vicinity. So that's the same thing that happens to people. I've had clients that I represented successfully who were caught in a situation where they were with the wrong crowd. And so those kind of situations will get you in trouble. And then oftentimes the ones who actually did it, they'll throw it off on you. Or as you heard the term, throw somebody under the bus. You know what that means. If anybody don't know what that means, tell me. If you don't know what it means, tell me, and I'll explain it. But people get thrown under the bus all the time. And so anyway, and then you deal with the personality of the individual. Some secondary factors relate to things that we've been talking about: education, employment, the family structure. I can tell you that I have represented people from the time I started practicing law that were members of a family, and I represented the older ones. And then by the time I retired, the younger ones have gotten into the system either in juvenile or either they've moved to young adult court. So it depends on your family. Substance abuse, we already talked about that. Your recreation and leisure. Okay. And so we look at the who, what, and how. You know, who's the highest through recidivate. I've already talked about who those are. What? They'll use things to satisfy the needs, so they end up becoming criminals. And then, so we program to address the risk needs of these offenders. How? By providing programs to help those individuals, try to move them into a better situation. As it says here, to deal with the RNR, okay, and the risk of those individuals that are involved, okay. And then here is some information that you can take a look at yourself as well. We already talked about determinate and indeterminate sentencing. You can go through and you can do this little exercise. We only got about 8 minutes left, so I'm kind of wrapping up here. And you're going to be able to see this actually helps you. Please, 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 please do not cite the sources that are in here. Try not to cite just your text, because I already told you you'll lose points. I told you that at the very beginning, and it's on the course homepage. The idea is for you to do some research, okay? But these are some bullet points that describe determinate sentence. These are things that can help you to get a good grade, but don't cite them. Indeterminate sentencing. These are things here. In my jurisdiction, Illinois, we have determinate sentencing. In fact, yours truly, in 1977, when I was in law school, before I graduated in 1978, my research was done on what we call House Bill 1500. And House Bill 1500 was one of the first major changes to the Illinois Criminal Code. And we came up with Class X felonies, extended terms, truth in sentencing. We began to deal with sentencing in the form of mitigation and aggravating circumstances that you can consider. So we are determinate now. Sentencing is more closer to what the crimes you committed. You know, and if you listen to my story, that's another reason why it's important. You know why I became a lawyer, because the guy that killed my mom and dad served actually 3.5 years for killing 2 people. And so because the sentencing, especially in the second instance with my mother, was 10, that turned into 5, that turned into 3.5. So under determinate sentencing, we don't have that result as often. So we have determinate sentencing under House Bill 1500 that was passed into law, I think either 77 or 78 when I graduated in 78. But my thesis that I did, which one day I'm going to try to see if I can get a copy of it. They tell me they still have them at the law school, but I'd like to get a copy of it, because somebody asked me if they could see a copy of what I did, but I haven't seen it in a while. It's on my transcript that I did it, but anyway. Determinate sentencing is what we have here in Illinois. And so you can go through here and you take each of these and then you click on these, okay? So just remember, it is important for you to understand the distinction between the two for purposes of your, and remember, somebody said determinate sentence is more punitive. Kind of not, but I know what they mean when they say that, because you know you get a longer sentence. I'm not a fan of long sentences unless it fits the crime, and that it should fit the crime. You do the crime, you should be able to serve the time. But the whole thing is that we want to eventually get you, unless you're a lifer. Now, One of the things that happened with determinate sentencing is we came up with what we call habitual offenders acts. Some people refer to it as the 3 strikes for the period of time, and you were sentenced to either a lengthy time that really basically became life, or you had situations where um, the, that was you know what, I'm getting ready to take off my why let me stop the video. Okay, it should be clearer now. Sometimes, yeah, the video does some crazy stuff, and they want us to have videos. That's one of the rules, but sometimes we have to take them out because it interferes with this. So anyway, so what I was going to say is that the guy got 120 years, it said, but it was actually 4 terms of 30 years. So back in those days, now even though this was after the determinate sentencing, he was sentenced to um, 30 years, and each day he served a day. But then also there was still some good time in there. We eventually moved it out for certain offenses. But anyway, so it really meant 15. And then early with parole and how it was done. Keep in mind that when we went to determinate sentencing, we still had to do some structural changes that eventually resulted in taking it away from certain serious offenses. But anyway, the point of the matter is that this guy ended up, and by the way, he shot my mother and my adopted mother and the person who was with her who actually died. So he actually was sentenced to 15 years for that, and he served, thinking like about 10 or something, and then he got out. But this time he got caught with a gun, and the new law kicked in and got him, and he ended up spending 25 straight years, and then he died in prison. So the point of the matter is, so determinate sentencing does really work from that. So each state has a different form of it, but the key philosophy is based on these terms here and things that you see up here. All right, so now we're done with that. So I'm going to remind you to do this for your benefit, and I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to show you where it is. Start the quiz, and then you want to hook these together, the various things: retribution, general deterrence, specific deterrence, and you want to hook them together. And when you hook them together, you're going to reach a conclusion. So let's just try to do this real quick. Which individualized, it is the punishment the convicted individual receives to deter them from continued criminal activity. What do we call that? Is it retribution, general deterrence, or specific? General. Okay, I'm going to go with what you say. Now, referred to as an eye for an eye. Which one? retribution or specific. And then, of course, this one's left. Now, they all connect. So your first thought is it's right. Let's see if you're right. You did not choose the correct response. I already knew that. And I know where it went wrong, but I'm not going to tell you. So you're going to, go back and do it again. And you keep doing it until you get, because it's going to help you to prepare for your exam. Okay. So, any questions? No questions? Okay. All right. Well, the key phrase that I want to give you tonight is one that I've talked about quite a bit, and I talk about quite a bit in the course. Anybody have any ideas? Type it in chat box. No takers. There you go. Get the question mark off, Christy. That's it. That's it. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, it's rehabilitation. And I'll start my video. I hope I don't lose you when I do that. Okay, so yeah, it's rehabilitation. Just call me Mr. Empathy and Mr. Rehabilitation when it comes to dealing with individuals. So yes, rehabilitation. Give me that and you get your points. All right, guys, it's about 3 minutes over. I gotta go. I gotta go and continue looking at the news because I have to report on what's going on in our world of news. And then also, I'll be so glad, man, when this election is over because I'm up all night after this looking at various channels. Uh, I look at CNN most of the time. That's my channel of choice. I look at quickly what Fox says, but I can't take too much of. Um, I'm a fact person, me being a lawyer. And I teach my students, try not to deal too much on emotions. I know your emotions are going to play in, but if you learn how to operate on facts instead of fiction, you can go farther in life. I'm going to tell you the truth. All right. So anyway, good night, guys. Have a fantastic week. But the most important thing that I want you guys to do is not do your assignments. I do want you to do that. Is stay safe. That is the number one rally cry for me with my students and with everybody that I come across. Good night. See you next week.